Hey everyone, I'm Odette Maimoni, and today I'm going to show you how to create Power Automate that write data into an Excel file with conditional formatting. Let's start. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to write data into an Excel file with conditional formatting. As you can see, this is the results. This is the file that I wrote data, and this file has a conditional formatting. I did a conditional formatting that whenever there is a red value in this column, it's going to color this cell in a red color and also the font of the value. So this is what I'm going to show you, how to write data into an Excel file with conditional formatting. I already showed you previously how to write data into a CSV, but with a CSV, you cannot create conditional formatting as you can do with Excel. And also with Excel, you can create a layout and design, something that you cannot do with a CSV file. So in these cases, you consider using Excel, but how you can create Excel file with Power Automate, because there is a default action to create CSV file, but there is no default action to create Excel. For Excel, with a formatting, with a conditional formatting, you should use more than one action, and this is what I'm going to show you today. So let's start. First of all, you have to save the file with the column and the conditional formatting you want to create on the file with a table, and you don't have to set value. It's going to be a template that we're going to use in the flow that we are going to create. So I created two columns, the color and the size. And on the color cell, I created conditional formatting. When I go to conditional formatting and manage rules, you can see that I set a rule that said that if the value of the cell is red, going to color the cell in a red background. Also, the font itself going to color with a red color. So I set this rule and I save this file. Also, don't forget to create it as a table, because this is going to be useful for us in the flow. So after you did this, you save it. I saved it in OneDrive. What I'm going to do with this flow is to write data into the file, but I'm not going to write data into this file. I'm going to copy the file each time the flow is running. And for the copy file, I'm going to write the data. Why I'm going to do this with a copy? This is because I want to save each file for a backup and for history. You can also create a separate flow to delete the old file. And also you cannot create a copy for each running. You can overwrite the current file. This is for you to choose what to do, but I'm going to show you how to copy the file and then write the data into the new file that you create based on this file. So after I save this file on OneDrive, I'm going to the Power Automate. I will start with the manually trigger in my example, but I created previously a tutorial to show you how you can create trigger that depend on Power BI refresh. You can go to this video that you are showing right now on the screen and see how I did it there. So I start with this manually trigger, and then the first step that I'm going to do is to copy my file that I created, my template file that is ready for me to enter the data. So my step is going to be with OneDrive action, because I save the data on OneDrive. If you save the data on SharePoint, you're going to write SharePoint, but you can create the same step that I'm going to do. I'm going to choose OneDrive, but if you're in your workplace and you're using OneDrive for business, this is what you're going to choose. Step is copy file using path. And here I'm going to browse my file in my OneDrive. After I choose my file here, it expects me to write here the destination file path. It means I have to write here the destination place that I'm going to copy the file. If you want to create different folder for each case, you can create a dynamic path here, and it's going to navigate the file to the place that you're going to write here. And also you can give the file dynamic name, as I'm going to do right now. My place for the destination file path is going to be the same as the file is right now. But the file name is going to be dynamic because I don't want it to overwrite the file again and again, because I want to create history of files for backup or for QA. But this is what I'm going to do. If you give hard-coded of the file name, don't forget to click here to create overwrite of the file. So how I can give dynamic name to this file? When I click here for the expressions, you can see that I can create expression here in this area. And I want to give the current time, because even if I run this flow minute or second after second, this name is going to be changed again and again. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give the file the time, the current time. This is going to be the name of the file. You can also concat the name of the flow. I mean, if you create something like a report cell or something like that, you can give the file that you want, the name of the file that you want, and concat the current time, because you want it to create different name each time. But what I'm going to do is to create the current time, and I'm going to use UTC now. This function give me the current time. I'm going to format this function because I want it to be with the format that I'm going to give. So it must be with the second, because I'm going to cover case that it's going to run every second, and I'm not want it to create the same file with the same name. Don't forget to add the prefix of the Excel. Okay, so this is the step of the copy the file. What I like to do is when I create step to run the flow and to see if it's not failing, because I want to work cautiously to see if my flow is not failing, and if I catch the fail, I want to fix it at the time that it's not very big flow. So I run the flow and I test the flow for each step. Okay, so I save the flow and I click on test. For the first time, when you run the flow and you create a new action, it asks you to sign in. I click on continue, run flow. You can see the flow ran successfully. And if I go to my folder, it created a new file. Let's see what I have in this file. It should be the same as the first file that I created. Yeah, you can see it created the same file with empty columns. It just copied the file, the first file. Okay, great. Now, my next step is going to bring the data that is going to be in the Excel. So I am here in the Power BI desktop. The data that I'm going to write in the Excel is going to be from the Power BI. So I created a table, and I wrote for the table two of the columns that I want to use in my flow. This is the columns that I created in the Excel file. And I also filter the data that I want it to show in the Excel. And the next step that I need to do is to take the DAX that is behind this table. And how am I going to do this? I'm going to go to the Optimize and then click on Performance Analyzer. When you click on Start Recording, this little icon of Analyze This Visual is going to show you. When you click on it, you can see that the Power BI read the table and create for you the DAX that is behind the table. When I click on the copy query, I just took the DAX that behind this table. So this works for me, and I'm going to use this DAX in my Power Automate flow. So I'm coming back to the flow that I created. And the next step is going to be from Power BI connector. You can see this action called run a query against a dataset. I'm going to choose this action. And here I need to choose my workspace and my dataset. Be sure that the Power BI desktop is published to the workspace on the service. So you're going to see the data that you're expecting to see. Here, I'm going to paste my DAX that I just copied from the Power BI Studio. Attention here, the DAX is bringing you top number of the data. I don't want it to filter my data with some kind of top n filter. So I'm going to delete this variable. But don't forget, when you use the evaluate, you had to change the evaluate to take the data from the previous variable, because we just deleted this variable that created the top n filter. So this is good for us. I'm going to save and test for each step, just to be sure that my flow is not breaking. Great, my flow ran successfully. As you can see, the Power BI bring the results that I expected. For my next step, I want to copy output from this flow, and I'm going to copy it from here, from the body part. If you working with the Power Automate from the Power Apps, you copy the data from the first table rows. Okay. Then again, I'm going to edit. And my next step is going to be the parse JSON, because I want to parse the data that came from the Power BI. And if I want to use it as an array, I have to parse the data to a JSON. So I have this built-in action called parse JSON. I'm going to use that. The content is going to be from the previous step. I'm going to use the first table rows. The schema is going to be, I'm going to use sample and copy the body that just came from the previous step that we just copied. Okay, so again, it runs successfully, and you can see the output is the array that I want it to be. Great. My next step is most important one, is to write the data into the Excel, the one that we just copied. This is your time to subscribe my channel if you like my content. Thank you. So my next step is going to be a loop. I'm going to run on a loop on each value that came from the parse JSON. It means the values that comes from the Power BI query, and to write it into the Excel that we copy here. So I'm going to insert the apply to each step, and this apply to each is going to run on the data that came from the parse JSON. So I'm going to give it the body and insert this, and inside this loop, I'm going to create the action that came from the Excel connector. Also, if you're working in your work, in your company, and you're using Excel Online business, you should choose the step from here. I'm going to choose the Excel from here. The action that I want to do is to add a row into a table. Here on the file, you should give the ID of the file that you want to write data to. So here I'm going to give the ID that came back from the copy file using path step that we did on the first action that we just did. So we are going to use this on the file input. On the table, it's not going to give us to choose from a list, because it not yet know to read the tables that came from this file. So we are going to give it manually. I'm going to write the name of the table that came from the file. So I'm going to enter to the file and see here the name of the table. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to write it here. Great. Here we're going to write the JSON of the Excel file. We need to give here the name of the columns and the value that we want to insert for each column. So it should be looking like that. We start with with these brackets, and we're going to give the column names as they been wrote in the Excel. So the first column was color, and here we're going to give the value that come from the parse JSON, the loop that we are into. So here I'm going to choose this column, and then comma, and then the second column that I have, which is the size column. Also here, I'm going to give the size column that came back from the parse JSON. Okay, so right now I'm going to run this flow again, and I want to delete all this file that created each time I ran the flow when I wanted to test the flow. So I'm going to delete these files. This is going to be the whole flow that create the all step that I wanted. Okay, you can see that my flow ran successfully, and let's see what just happened. It created the file that I wanted, and let's see what is inside. Amazing. This is the data written in the file, and also the conditional formatting just applied in the file as I expected it to do. Amazing. And also you can do whatever you want and can do in Excel and cannot do on CSV. So this is it. This is it. I hope you like that. And I hope you forgive me for my English. This is the first video for me to speak English, so I hope you like that. Also, I'm inviting you to join my Telegram channel called Power Platform and Data Job. This is the place for you to chat with me and a lot of data experts on Power Platform. Thank you, and I'll see you on my next video.